A former Freeport teacher has pleaded guilty to having sex with one of her students. Yet despite her admission, Nikki Scherwitz was only sentenced to probation and a fine. Our Vicente Arenas is live in Freeport tonight, where that sentence is not sitting well with some people. Vicente?
Lisa, people here in Freeport are upset that she's not going to jail, but today the district attorney told me that she'll have to abide by some very strict guidelines or else end up behind bars.
They're talking about Miss Scherwitz.
Some students were shocked when they learned their former teacher, Nikki Scherwitz, wouldn't have to spend any time in jail for having an improper relationship with a teenager.
Because, like, men, yeah, they're more dominant, but the men get 25 to life, but a woman gets a slap on the wrist with only a $5,000 fine.
Scherwitz was charged last year for having sex with a 16-year-old boy at Brazosport High School. The 26-year-old 10th grade English teacher pled guilty and avoided years behind bars.
If it was a guy or a teacher, a male teacher with a female student, it wouldn't be the same.
The district attorney said it okayed the deal because the student was nearly 17 and agreed to send apologies to the victim's mother and the school district. In the letter to BISD, she said, "I apologize for the behavior I engaged in with the student. I crossed an ethical boundary I never should have crossed. I'm sorry." That's not good enough for some.
I think she should get more than just probation because, you know, you're an adult. That's a kid, and you shouldn't be having relationships with a young minor.
The district attorney says Scherwitz will now be considered a convicted felon, not be allowed to be around minors, will have a curfew, and can't ever teach again.
So some people upset with a lighter sentence there, and there does seem to be a difference when it comes to sentences for men and women teachers who are convicted of the same crime.
Our legal analyst, Professor Gerald Treese, is in the newsroom to tell us why women don't seem to pay as high a price for these kinds of crimes. Gerald?
You know, I think the person they interviewed is kind of right. I think these women that do this, they do get a break, and I think it's wrong, and here's why I think it's wrong. Any type of gender discrimination for or against should be wrong. We should have the same treatment for male teachers who violate the rights of their students if it's a female teacher. Remember, guys, we're talking about our children, and we're talking about teachers in a very powerful position who are taking advantage. I'm not saying it, the law says it, and I just think that the system is wrong, and I think courts are wrong. But then again, these sentences continue, and I think a lot of these women have been proven to have some kind of mental issue that later comes up.
Well, there also seems to be a societal issue going on here as well, Jerry. When you talk about, young boys, it's almost like a conquest for them in many regards, and girls are completely treated a different way.
Yeah, man, Greg, it may go back to that systemic discrimination in our society where women are protected and that they are, in other words, nobody should touch them, and men are not. But I'm not that person. I believe the law, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, is supposed to take gender out of these things. And I think it's going to take a generation or two to realize that our children should not be preyed on. And when they are, the treatment should be equal, be it a male teacher or a female teacher.
Absolutely right. Gerald Treese, thank you so much for being with us tonight.